All right. Hey, Donna. Really glad that we get to talk today for a coaching practice session. Is there anything in particular you have going on that you want to talk about?
Hey, Maggie. Yeah, I think one of the big things that I'm having trouble with is keeping up with my training. I know that we've got the Minerva training that's been out for a while. I seem to have a problem actually making time to do that. And I know I'm behind, from what the team is working with, and we have go live here in just a couple of days actually. So I'm a little worried about that.
Okay, so why do you think you're having trouble making time for it?
It feels like I'm scattered between so many different duties or priorities that I need to take care of during the day. I just don't have time, it feels like, to actually sit down and do the training. I'm not sure where to whittle time out of my day to put that on my calendar.
Right. So you have a lot of competing priorities, and you're not sure, which one to put on top, basically, because we know the training has a deadline, and the project has a go-live date that's coming fast. So why do you think it's hard for you to put that at the top of the priorities?
I'm not sure. It just seems like when I have my escalations, I think I'm so much of a people pleaser. I want to get my escalations done. I feel like maybe the big project that I had on the side for FedEx has taken a lot of time, wanting to make sure that I'm getting that done correctly and all the details are correct in it. We've got our conference calls and everything else that goes on. It just seems very hard to get in a mindset to where I can say, okay, look, I'm going to put this amount of time on my calendar so that I can do 10 or 15 minutes worth of training a day.
Okay. So
it feels like maybe I'm going to be distracted as I'm going through those.
Right. So you mentioned being a people pleaser and having this big project and escalation. So tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like the tasks where you are, serving or supporting somebody else, in your mind, get a higher priority than something that is, just holding yourself accountable.
Yes.
Okay. So, but your skills in this new training, and when we go live with this new tool, if you're not performing up to par and you're not able to train your team and guide your team through this new tool, how is that going to affect your stakeholders?
Negatively, and it's going to make me very anxious.
Right. So you kind of see down the road where it could become a bigger problem than all these one-off escalations that you have.
Yes.
Not to freak you out or anything, but in the long run, doing this training is going to serve you and it's going to serve your stakeholders, right?
Yes.
All right. So as far as these one-off escalations, I know how that goes. It's day in, day out in your email inbox, in your instant messenger, sometimes on your cell phone. I know it's just blowing up all the time. But that being said, they're always going to be there, and there are other people who can help drive those. So maybe for the time being, since we've got this deadline approaching, you could delegate as much as possible to your journey team and to your peer, Monica, and just for a little bit of time each day, put yourself on Do Not Disturb, close your inbox, and really just sit down and start chipping away at it. Does that sound like something you could do?
It does sound doable.
All right. Well, let's look at this from like the thoughts to feelings to results kind of model. So your thought is that you have too many priorities, and that makes you feel scattered, and you want to be a people pleaser. So when you're not a people pleaser, how do you feel?
Anxious and like a failure.
All right, so we definitely don't want to feel like a failure, right? So the thought that leads to that is, if I don't handle all these escalations, I'm going to disappoint somebody and I will feel like a failure. And that thought and that feeling lead to a result of you putting all your focus into those escalations. So in order for you to get a result where you make it a priority to do the training, what do you have to feel in order to do that?
I think it would be maybe a feeling of empowerment, just so that I know I can take control of the situation. And, you know, like you were saying a moment ago, the whole delegation would allow for that, just simply because, you know, if I'm taking control and actually giving my priorities, having somebody help me with giving those the actual attention they need, I can feel a little bit better about that and possibly turn around and say, hey, okay, I have a little breathing room and I can, you know, take this 10 or 15 minutes to do a training or two.
All right, so in order to have an action where you put the training first, you need to feel empowered and maybe confident. Does that sound right?
Yep.
And so what do you need to think in order to feel that way?
Oh, gosh.
I know. You really got to dig down deep.
And you know me, I'm such a feeler, it's hard for me to put my words into thinking actions. Just thinking that, yes, I can do this, yes, it is possible, you know, just allowing myself to realize that I do have that time in the day as long as I can sit down and you know, shuffle things, I guess, a little bit to put me in that feeling of empowerment.
All right, so having a thought that there is enough time in the day, well, what would lead to that? Like, what's another? So what I'm thinking is knowing that you have the support. Like, if all of the tasks that come through your inbox fall solely on your shoulders, then it can be overwhelming, and then it feels like there aren't enough hours in the day, or you think there aren't enough hours in the day. But if you change your thought to, I'm not the only one who can answer on this, I have a support system, I have a team I can rely on, I have a colleague I can rely on, then maybe having that thought that I'm not the only one that can handle this will help you feel empowered and confident. And then when you feel empowered and confident, you will make the action of creating time for that training, which will lead to a result of you catching up and being proficient in the new tool. Does that make sense?
See, putting it like that makes perfect sense.
So, and here's the thing between the two of us is we're both empaths. We feel a lot, and that feels, it seems like everything starts with a feeling. It's like there's a circumstance, and then we have an emotion. But in between that, there is a thought. And if we can recognize that thought, then we can change the feeling that comes after. So, an example, you're sitting in traffic, you start to feel anxious, there's just gridlock and nobody's getting anywhere for an hour, basically. Some people are sitting there anxious and furious and irritated because they're having thoughts of, I'm going to be late, I don't want to be here, this is just a huge inconvenience. And of course, that's going to make them feel upset. But then there are some people that are sitting there thinking, well, this is a nice pause to my day. I can sit here and jam out to music. And they're going to feel happy and relaxed. So if you can start to realize, I'm having this emotion, what was the thought that led to it? Then you can start changing that thought and realizing that, just because there was a circumstance, the circumstance doesn't have to dictate your emotions. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's like rewording phrases, but you're rewording how you actually react to a situation.
Exactly. So right now you're in a situation where the workload is overwhelming, and we've got this huge project coming, and you've got this long list of training you have to complete. You can't really change that circumstance. It is what it is. That's the job. But you can change how you approach that circumstance, the thoughts that you have about it, and then the feelings and actions that ensue. So it's kind of just focusing on where you do have control. Because if you focus on where you don't, then of course you're not going to feel very good about that.
And that makes a lot of sense.
So then, knowing that you do have that support system in place, do you feel confident whittling out a little time, maybe 30 minutes a day, or whatever you feel is manageable with your workload, and then delegating some of the escalation stuff, or maybe just putting it on hold? You don't have to answer things the minute they hit your inbox. Let them wait an hour or two. We're not saving babies here. They can wait an hour or two.
Yeah, I mean that's a definite solution to things.
Okay, well then, let's make that your plan, that you will shut everything down, do your do not disturb, close your inbox for whatever amount of time that you allot for the training, get that training done, and then you can switch your gears back into escalation mode. Sound good?
That sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, so is there anything else you wanted to discuss, or do you have any other thoughts on this particular issue?
No, I mean, I think that you've helped me kind of actually work through this and look and see this a different way, and it's definitely a very doable plan, so I appreciate that. All
right, well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and letting me help guide you through it.
Yes,
how about we sync back up next week to see how this is going, if the plan's working for you, or if you need anything else?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Maggie.